You're listening to episode 2 of the new series called The Startup from the Unknown podcast. Excited to take you guys on this journey. This one's going to be a short one talking about Smartrsales, and episode 3 follows, which is talking about CRS. There is no intro to this. The intro was in season 1, episode 1, so just enjoy.
Sell, but to enable the selling, right? Like I think if you want to share your screen again and actually show people what the platform does, I think it'll be helpful because
Which
that's
one?
what you're
Lead me?
doing really. Smarter sales, right? That's what you're talking about.
Oh, with Smartrsales, yeah.
Yeah,
So let me just
you're
put this
sharing
down.
yeah.
Smartrsales. Yeah. So Smartrsales is
Right there, right? Left,
well, no, this
down,
is the
left.
CRS. Here's Smartrsales statement of work. Here's Smartrsales license. So this is
Yeah.
Smartrsales, and this is a sales platform application
Yep.
that allows for the distribution of financial products in a much more efficient way. And it effectively gives people, it triangulates data, applies some data science to it a little bit, it applies some AI to it, and it basically shows the salesperson where the low-hanging fruit is. So it's in the mobile application, it's feed-based. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is the mobile app, and you can dig down into these notifications as to where you should be spending your time as an institutional salesperson. And it goes into detail as to why it's an opportunity. It has a CRM built into it, so you can share that particular post, or you can share that piece of information with your team, or you can share it outside. You can attach compliance approved material, you can create the event, and it all dumps down into Salesforce or your legacy CRM. Here's the compliance approved materials that you can pull from. So it has a direct link and a pipe to compliance. And then on the desktop version it's a heavy data app. So it allows you to compare and contrast asset managers and the products with the established or the incumbent one. So you can be the challenger or you can be the incumbent. You can see who you're going up against. You can measure various statistics, and you can actually rank and score everybody as to where you should be spending your time. And this maps the entire institutional asset management business. So we're talking about 20,000 different products. We're talking 25,000 consultants. We're talking 8,000 different firms that are offering financial products. And we're talking about 10,000 different, 3,000 to 5,000 really institutional buyers in the US and Canada. So it also sets up alerts for you with a proprietary AI application that I built. So it alerts you as to what's relevant in your territory and what you should be focusing on. So it's and that's all represented in your mobile app as well. So again, in this particular case, I'm just helping the sales. So smarter sales, it could be smarter CRM, it could be smarter legal, it could be smarter accounting, it could be smarter something. It's all about
sales is good, right? It's talking about the outcome that everybody cares about. So it's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Sales, listen, we're a ways away from certain models moving to outsourced sales completely. I would love to see asset management move that way. I would love to see hedge funds rely on nothing but third parties. I would like to see, or applications like this.
I mean, why is it? Why is it? Is it because of regulation?
The regulations there. It's not necessary. Listen, when people are making allocations to hedge funds, private equity funds, fund to funds, venture funds, the minimum size they're making is $1 million, and it goes all the way up to $1 billion. So when you have $1 billion, you typically like a sales team. You have $1 billion to allocate to any of these products, right, or any of these services. You typically want a team to answer questions, provide feedback, get you in the door, meet with the portfolio manager, meet with the diligence team, meet with the RFP team, meet with your client service team, and quarterback the whole process. So the bigger the check size, the more reliant you are on human beings to quarterback. If you're dealing with smaller check sizes, like retail customers that maybe want to write a $25,000 check or a $50,000 check into a venture or a hedge fund, They typically weren't able to do that because of SEC regulations in the past if they weren't accredited. Now the SEC's loosening those accreditation standards. And so companies like iCapital are aggregating these smaller investors and piping them into a hedge fund. So they'll take 20 to 200 retail investors and make a $5 million allocation to a hedge fund. And that's one subscription with this one, group of investors to the hedge fund. So that's going online. iCapital is a good example where they're doing all the retail investors are doing all the diligence and stuff online, but they're still relying on an iCapital salesperson to actually recommend a product and
Yeah.
suggest that they put $50,000 into it. So it's the difference. I guess you could look at it as the brokerage industry, Robinhood, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, all the way to the Merrill Lynches of the world and the high touch groups, right, where you have a lot of your wealth managed by a person. There's a certain break point where you're comfortable, no longer comfortable letting computers manage it. You want people to manage it. And it may be because you actually want somebody to blame, but it may also be because you get better service. And so there's the argument, which is, are people better decision makers than computers with AI, data science, machine learning? And the answer is going to be no. Computers are better at making those decisions for you. Don't rely on human beings. And Tony Robbins, who's wrote Money Mastery and a bunch of other best-selling books, and all the top investors from Paul Tudor Jones all the way down, they will, some of them will say, we've been so successful and we're successful, we are attracting capital and we're rinsing and repeating. And these guys are really bright. The Ray Dalios of the world are super, super bright people. But and so you want to invest with them. But if you only have $1 million, you're going to get eaten by taxes, eaten by fees, eaten up by transaction costs at the end of the day, unless you're on a fee-based. And it may be better to go with something that is robo. It may be something to go with a computer. So the industry has been changing for the last 10 to 20 years, starting with engines and financial engines. And I think it was Markowitz who started that, but all the way to today. And it's going to continue to evolve. And so asset management itself is under pressure, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, huge pressure too, because their fees are coming down. People are going straight into ETFs. Why should I pay 25 basis points or 50 basis points when I can get an ETF for nothing? Or I can get people to pay me to take my money, right? They'll guarantee me a return, or I don't pay any fees, those types of things. So asset management is not here to stay in the traditional way, and there's room to improve it with applications like this. So again, chipping away at an established process, not moving to the buy now button, but here's a platform, and we may be able to disrupt or disintermediate the existing infrastructure because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think just
expensive.
like lead me, it's a sub problem of the main problem, and it's worth the cleanup, the cleanup,
Yeah.
or the I use the saying that process is like salt. You cannot put too much, you cannot put too little, right? There has to be just the right amount. And I think a lot of both these problems, what they have in common is that it looks like there's too much salt in both of them.
Yeah.
And that's created an opportunity to create a new dish with the right amount of salt. And that itself is a business of its own. And I think that's what you're sharing here is selling, using selling that's more targeted,
Yep.
and it's also wider because anybody could do it. It doesn't have to be a very specific set of trained professionals, because the software is now replacing the training aspect of the skill set,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
ultimately, here's the real disruptive piece of this is you want this to be in the hands of the allocators. You want this, forget the salesperson in the middle. We talked about this. You almost want them out of the equation. So take the salespeople out, replace the salespeople with a bunch of client servicing people. They're the people that onboard clients. They're the people that help them with all the questions. They're the people that process all the paperwork, that make sure everybody's on the same page. They bring everybody to the table. They quarterback the whole process. Those aren't salespeople. Salespeople are going finding money. The client service people ultimately take care of the client when they've been agreed to become a client. So
Yep.
there's almost, the vision here is to take the salesperson out of the equation ultimately, provide them for a couple of years with this tool and allow them to hunt better. But ultimately, you want this tool to be in the hands of the allocators that are allocating capital. So they do the reverse lookup. They find the asset managers. They're not being sold the asset management products.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yep.
And
The
they're
supply and
they're
demand
inviting them.
connection, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they connect the supply and demand. I think
You
that's what's happening in the
yeah.
second one too.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you're
that's what we were doing at Fitmo too. So I think that is that's the right zoom level of the problem, where you are finding a demand and then connecting or removing the obstacles between the demand and the supply, right? Like maybe
yeah.
that's how you look
You're
at it.
giving them direct, you're taking the salesperson out, which actually decreases the cost overall significantly because you don't have to pay people big salaries, big bonuses, or trailing commissions or anything like that. And you're taking salespeople right out of the equation. And I'm not just talking about asset management, because there are other big sales people associated with a lot of other industries where the sales
Yeah.
engine, it's forget the marketing piece. It's very different from sales. Sales and marketing is always grouped together, but it's very different. Um, sales sales can be replaced with technology. I'm convinced of it in so many instances. And it's just a matter of which ones are going to fight back and which ones are going to accept. And I can tell you, the asset management industry right now is going through a lot of change. It's under pressure. Fees are getting cut. Everybody's looking for new ways of using data to accelerate sales, to make them less expensive. And imagine this, imagine a world where a year from now, you have an organization that used to have 20 salespeople. A year from now, they have 10 salespeople, and then they've got a bunch of less expensive people or clients using this technology. Then they have half the cost, half the fixed cost, but they're still attracting more, if not, or the same, if not more, new clients. And they're keeping existing clients around longer. And that's very important to realize that the best clients is one that you keep around for another year. It's
Yep.
already one that's already in your copy. You know that with Gartner,
Yep.
where
Yeah.
the best clients are the ones you don't have to go and sell to every year. They just re-up because it's far less expensive. So that's I'm doing this in Smartrsales. We don't need to really talk about this because there's not much to do here. We're waiting for a reaction from a very large asset manager to make an investment in us. We'll see, knock on wood. We've been talking to them for about 9 months, and so we'll see whether they step up or not. But there is